Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Happy Friday! We are 50 hours from kickoff. No, we're longer than that, 53 hours from kickoff of the Browns and the Rams in a very, very pivotal week in the NFL. Aren't they all? Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. 90 minutes here today on YouTube at 12:30 on the dot. We flip over to Channel 3 for 30 minutes, as McNuggets likes to call it, never before seen Browns coverage.
You guys are going to pressure me into wearing a jacket.
Yeah,
at
really.
This rate.
You're halfway there.
You're almost there.
I mean,
unfortunately, the Browns have played way too many games that aren't important because they get eliminated early, and that's not the case this year.
Good point.
You know?
We're lucky to have meaningful games in
That's
December.
right. Every game's going to matter the rest of the season.
That is absolutely
exactly
a fact.
what you want.
Yeah. Lot to talk about on today's show. Who's the quarterback? That's a pretty big spot. Also, there are injuries. We don't really have a lot of injury information, and unlike most weeks, a lot of times on Fridays we break news as to who's going to play and who isn't because we're getting those practice lists before we go off the air. That won't happen today. They're obviously out in Los Angeles. They're practicing late, so because of that, we won't get word until later this afternoon as to who's going and who's not. And guys, we've tried to do this before, and with not much success. Remember the Ravens game? We were like, oh, he's not going to play. Deshaun Watson's out.
Yeah.
As soon as we left the air, Mary Kay sends out a message that he says he's playing, and then come game time, he's not. So it's hard to guess, but we're going to do our best here on today's show.
I think it's pretty, for me, I think it's pretty safe to say that Joe Flacco is going to play.
I feel safe.
I get what you're saying. There have been a lot of there have been way too many Friday shows that we have started and not been sure who the quarterback is, and that is the case again this week. I think at this point, I'll be pretty shocked if Joe Flacco's not playing on Sunday.
I'm with you,
Yeah, I agree. Listen, Joe Flacco's pretty much been taking all the reps. I don't think DTR is going to come out of nowhere and just put the cape on. And
we've seen that before. It didn't end well.
It didn't end well.
No, it did not end well. That was his first NFL start.
Right.
He's got a little bit more under his belt now, but not a ton. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the chance that Joe Flacco gives this team. How does he have to play? We're going to talk about that later. But where does he need to perform? Because we've seen the Browns have beaten really good football teams with less than mid-play at the quarterback spot. I mean, when you look at the 49ers game and you look at the analytics on P.J. Walker for that game, there's no way they should have won. But the defense and a little bit of luck here and there and some flags, and they did. So what has to happen today with a Rams team that I think everybody agrees is getting a lot better? They look a lot better now than they did early in the year, particularly on offense. First hello of the day to Mikey McNuggets behind the glass. I know you're got a bit of a Cavs loss hangover this morning.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little Cavs
what was
today,
an
too.
Abysmal performance last night.
And we're going to talk about the Cavs and the hot seat that JB's on here towards the end of the YouTube show before we head over to WKYC. But first, we do talk football, and our first read of the day and our first winning ticket of the day comes from Bill White. Check this out, and I'll tell you the FanDuel read in a sec. But Bill White turned $10 into $664 last night on a multi-part same-game parlay. We got a bunch of winning tickets from last night's Thursday Night Football game that we'll showcase over the next couple of days. But he had the Cowboys winning, Dak Prescott over 250 yards, CeeDee Lamb over 70 yards, Jake Ferguson over 40 yards, DK Metcalf over 40, CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown, DK anytime touchdown, Jake Ferguson anytime touchdown, Tony Pollard over 40 yards. And that's how Bill White turned $10 into $664.
That was one of the best games of the year.
It was a phenomenal
very
game.
It was so much fun to watch.
The penalties drove me nuts.
The penalties were annoying. It got better in the second half.
There was still a lot in the second half.
There was. The first half was insane.
Yeah.
It was a great game.
But it was a great game besides the penalties.
I was somewhat surprised. It's how well Seattle looked.
It's the best their offense looked.
I agree.
Even though they couldn't run the ball that much.
No. But he threw it all over the place.
Yeah, Gino had his best game of the year.
Over the place. You have something else, right, Mike?
I got to actually do the read. I gave you the ticket, but I didn't do the read.
Yeah.
And y'all trying to got me off track. But as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. And just like Bill White, you can win a lot of money. And you get $150 in free bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
Yeah, they are a partner, and here's what I love. Just in the short time that they've been one of our biggest sponsors, we've seen, this is a perfect example, someone using the show's sponsor product and then showing everybody else that might not be using the show's product how they can get rich doing it. What other client show relationship is that? It's really a perfect synergy.
It's awesome. These people who bet these parlays for like $10 or less, it's like signing a free agent, a minor league free agent in baseball. There's only upside. There's no downside.
No.
You're betting $10. You're betting $5. You got, okay, you lose $10. You lose $10 going to the coffee shop, for crying out loud. And this guy won $600-something.
It's unreal.
A few years ago, I went to Vegas for the NCAA tournament and did a story on the Vegas Strip against Jerry's Nugget and the people betting in both places. And you've got lawyers at Caesars at the sports book betting $1,000 a game, and then you go to Jerry's Nugget and they're betting $2 on a 25-team parlay. It was my kind of people.
Yeah, and it's fun to look at the different demographics too. It's like walking through a casino and looking at the $5 table compared to the $1,000 table. It's a study in society. By the way, I would love to have been a fly on the wall when you pitch that story idea to your editor. Hey, listen, I'd like to go to Vegas and do a story on betting for the NCAA tournament.
He did a story on strippers.
That was right after the stripper story.
Was that a throw-in? Was that a throw-in?
Well, so we did the stripper story in January. I went to the Super Bowl in Atlanta.
That was awesome.
Patriots-Rams Super Bowl. I went to Atlanta and wrote about the strippers.
Well, because Atlanta kind of is the epicenter of that industry.
That was the hook.
So give us the Cliff Notes version, because we got to get into the show. But give us the Cliff Notes version of that column.
Okay, so the best part about it actually was all these strippers have to get licensed to work that Super Bowl week. You have to go to the licensing office in Atlanta, and you have to get a license for the week, and it's like $500 for the week for this.
Wow. They make so much money.
Oh yeah, it's it's a vendor's license. Any vendor that comes in. There were so many strippers in the licensing office that they ran out of ink. And this woman comes out. There's all of these strippers sitting around the lobby in their pajamas because it's 11 in the morning. And I was talking to a cop, and he's like, "Go down." I told him what I was doing. He goes, "This is a great story. Go to the licensing office. I'm telling you, just go to the licensing office." So I walk in there, and this woman comes out, and she says, "We're waiting on an ink delivery from the airport, and it got delayed. We ran out of ink. You have to come back tomorrow." And all of these angry strippers get up and leave. The best part, though, it's lunchtime. So you've got these strippers trying to get out with these workers trying to get out and other workers trying to get in, and it's this traffic jam. And there's this 80-year-old woman out there directing traffic, and you had strippers driving Mercedes, and you had strippers driving 88 Hondas. And it was one of the best scenes. Oh, it was
yeah,
terrific.
It really does sound like a scene from a movie, because if you didn't know what was going on and you showed up there for another piece of business, you would literally be looking around saying, where am I right now?
What is going on?
Why are all these scantily clad ladies? I love what you said, the Angry Strippers. That's a band name. How is that not a band name by now?
We went to Atlanta last year, and it was me, my mom, dad, and my wife.
So I know where you didn't go.
So but it's sneaky. They'll sneak a strip joint in amongst regular plainclothes people. We were going to get some food, and we went to a place that looked kind of like a diner. We get in line, and I said, "All right, let me go park the car." My dad gets in line, and the bouncer says, "Yeah, cover charge is $20." And he's like, "Well, I just want to get some food." He was like, no, well, it's going to go up later at 30. And then finally my mom asked, "Well, why are we paying?" And they're like, "Well, you don't see the entertainment?" Amongst everyone, it was like a buffet, a bunch of people, and the strippers were there just in a diner setting. Fooled the hell out of my dad. You should have saw him.
Wait, you guys didn't actually go in.
No.
That would have been a reality show.
He walked in.
G. Bush, mom, dad, and wife at a stripper joint.
I come back and say, "Hey, guys, why we ain't going to eat? I just parked the car." They was like, Yeah, there's
picked the
people
wrong
with their
place.
clothes off in there.
I talked to an Uber
That's unreal.
driver. We could do 2 hours on this.
yeah.
I'll wrap it with this. So I was talking to an Uber driver for that story who said he used to take a family of 4 to Magic City, the strip club in Atlanta. It was like mom, dad, son, and daughter.
How old were the kids?
They were like teenagers, I guess.
I've heard they have great wings there.
I did not.
rumor.
I listen. I got in so much trouble at home because I didn't tell my
gosh.
wife I was doing the story, and it just sort of landed. And she's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Shout
And I'm
out to Cinnamon and Diamond, by the way.
like, listen. Every
Main
entertainer I
stage.
talked to,
Cinnamon.
every entertainer I talked to was fully clothed, and it was the middle of the day when I did the story. I wasn't there at night. I wasn't doing this and all that. But then,
Hey,
so,
it's your job. I mean, you got to do your job.
so I did that in January, and then in March I was at spring training for the Indians at the time, and I said, "Hey, Vegas is like a 3-hour car ride away. Why don't I just go up to Vegas and do a March Madness story?" So that's how I
it
hooked
is.
a
You're
March Madness
resourceful.
story.
I got
Yes,
to
you are.
give you that. I mean, those are 2 great stories because a lot of times editors don't take bait like that.
Well, that was the wild, wild west days of the Athletic. That was well before the New York
Yeah,
Times.
would have been-
that doesn't happen today under the New York Times
how
umbrella.
you'll see old baseball movies sometimes from like I remember 61 was like this, where you saw the old time reporters and they would kind of protect the players back in those days.
yeah.
Jason would be the one reporter that would not be protecting the players.
No,
Which
I don't think so. I
Which
think
I
Jay would be good on
100%
that.
respect.
Because he's
I don't
with
know.
the players. What are you
Jay's
talking
got
about?
Jay's got a lot of man card to him. I think you might. The funny story about that is,
Yeah.
and I don't know if this is true or not, but it was the myth was once when the Yankees, they used to travel by train
Yep.
in the Babe Ruth days. All of the writers were in one of the passenger cars, and they saw a almost naked Babe Ruth running through their passenger car with a completely nude woman running behind him. And one of the writers allegedly turned to one of the others and said, "It's a good thing we didn't see that or we'd have to write about it." So that was really the days of you protect the players.
Well, Mantle was getting hammered basically on a nightly basis. I mean, just wasted every single day.
Well, you know the story,
Yeah.
the famous story about, I don't even know if I can't go into it here.
All
I
right.
can't go into it here. But he actually was engaged in a sex act during a game at a stadium.
Mantle?
Mickey Mantle.
Oh, that I
Very
haven't heard.
famous story.
Yeah.
Google it, look it up. It's hilarious.
I know of a mascot who got fired for doing that during a game with the head on.
God, the visual. At the old Sky Dome in Toronto, there was a couple
at the hotel.
Yeah.
in the hotel having sex at the
that became
window,
a thing.
and the entire stadium got to see it.
Like people were renting the rooms just to do that during the games.
Exactly right. Oh, the Wild Wild West. All right, let's dive in. Alex Van Pelt. He's just sitting there taking all of this in.
Like, I didn't
take
hear
it.
nothing.
He's glad he's not a human.
We go from elite stories to elite arm strength, and that's
That's
what
right.
AVP said Joe Flacco had yesterday when he was asked about the Browns' potential new starting quarterback. And if you take Tagboard full, just so everyone's on the same page, this is exactly what Alex Van Pelt said. He said his arm strength at 38. He still has an elite arm on a scale of 1 to 5. He's a 5. His ball flight velocity at every level of the field is great.
We
Do you
buying
believe
that?
it? Buy it? Sell?
I'm not. I mean, I'm sure he's got some throws in him that are still elite, was my guess. But there's no way he consistently, at his age, is going to be able to throw with the same velocity and accuracy that he did when he was in the prime of his career. That I can't believe.
Guys have done that. Brett Favre still zinged it at 38.
Yeah,
Tom Brady.
But he ain't
played
Brett
to
Favre and he ain't Tom Brady.
45,
you know?
46.
Those are the exceptions, not the rule.
No, you're right.
If he could still do it consistently, he would have been on a team.
I think the question I have for you is, Alex, you've talked to him. He seems like a straight shooter.
That's exactly it.
And I don't think he would. I think what he did was he told what he thought to be the truth. He's not a guy that would embellish something for the sake of a good story.
You know what? You're 100%. Because when I first saw the note from Mike, I kind of rolled my eyes at it like, whatever. But then AVP is not that guy.
No.
Like, he kind of just tells you how it is.
Yep.
And he's always been that way, so I don't think he's going to make this up now. I guess where I land on the whole arm strength thing is I don't care. He doesn't need a 5. Like, 3's good. 3, 4, whatever is good.
DTR has a 6, and that's too much.
Yeah, right. And I'm more with his mind, with Flacco's mind.
Yeah.
And he had a play. I wish I could remember the details. He had there was the touchdown drive late in the game here, where I remember somebody said, I was talking to somebody who said, like, that's a veteran quarterback reading the defense and finding the hole.
Was that on the the big blow?
At the end.
Right,
Yeah, the
yes.
touchdown throw at the end was
He saw it at the line of scrimmage.
It's like Mike White's not going to find that. but Joe Flacco is.
You're asking about the long touchdown pass to
Yeah, not the busted coverage.
Okay,
He's
that's
talking
the one
about
I
the
thought you were
last
talking about.
touchdown.
The busted coverage one was stealing,
Jason's
but
talking
some
about the
quarterbacks
last
might not have
touchdown
seen that at the line of
where
scrimmage.
Grant Delpit didn't come up, and
Yes.
Tyvus did a whole breakdown of it.
Oh,
and
okay,
he saw
okay.
Grant Delpit, who was too deep to ever break on the play, and I'm sure
You're
if we could find
exactly
it.
And
right.
Joe saw it at
Coach
the time.
Tyvus,
You're
yeah.
exactly right, because Tyvus said you put your heels on the goal line and let your play take you into the end zone, and Delpit was like in la-la land on that play, and Flacco spotted it right away. I'm more interested in Joe for that, for the mind component. He's seen everything. He's seen every coverage that there is. I don't care if his arm's a 5. I care about his mind being sharp, and that's where I think his real advantage will come.
Yeah.
If there is an advantage of a 38-year-old quarterback who was golfing 2 weeks ago, it's that his mind is still sharp.
G, what's your thoughts on all this?
I think that it's probably still a 5. I know guys right now who can roll out of bed and go bench 500 pounds. Like it ain't nothing. And you're like, dude, when was the last time you lifted? There's like, I haven't lifted in like 5 years. There's guys who are just fast. Like, I believe there's guys in the league that can wake up out of bed and run a 4.5, and 4.5 is moving. Joe Flacco has always had a big arm. I don't second guess that. And Alex Van Pelt, he doesn't get anything or any cool points for saying 5 out of 5. You know what I mean?
yeah, there's no reason for him to embellish that.
No upside to it. What I go along with Jason is saying I think he's gonna play well. Like I just do. Like and it's not because of the simple fact that he's the most talented quarterback. It's the fact that some of the stuff that we've been seeing from our younger quarterbacks and even Deshaun Watson has not been veteran play. Deshaun Watson is a veteran, but he had all that rust on him. So there was times where Deshaun Watson was holding on to the ball too long. There's times where Deshaun Watson wasn't hitting his 3rd, 5th step, 7th step and getting rid of the ball. And we know what DTR and PJ Walker have been doing. So for me, I think this is going to have an opportunity to see a veteran. I think the ball will come out quick. And I think the best thing about it is he's not going to get fooled. He's not going to come in and he throw the ball into triple coverage and you be like, wow, I thought that was a different coverage than when I saw pre-snap. So at least if you get him out there, he's going to be able to make certain plays. I think he's going to have a calming effect in the huddle. And I think the Browns' offense will look pretty good in this game.
I remember having a conversation with Cordell Stewart once about something very similar. There was a situation in the NFL where there was a young quarterback that had started the season. The team had decided they were going to go with the new young gun when they had a veteran backup. In the first 4 or 5 games, everything was short and simple. 3, 5, nothing beyond 10 yards in the line of scrimmage. This team decided to make the switch to the veteran, and all of a sudden, the vertical passing game opened. And we were doing a segment, and I asked Cordell, why is that? And he said, well, it's very simple. The young guy who's got rookie eyes is seeing that something's partly open early, and he's taking it because he doesn't know what's going to happen in the progression of the play. The veteran eyes and brain knows, breathe, take a beat, something may come open that's better deeper down the field. And I think that is what we could possibly see here with Joe Flacco. He's going to look for and likely find things beyond 10 yards downfield, where this team hasn't had that passing game this year.
I think the question, though, is do the Browns have the offensive line to hold up?
That's a very good
Joe
point.
Flacco has no mobility, and Mike and I were talking before the show. If he has to move out of the pocket at all, it's a disaster. That's where he gets himself in trouble these days. When he's played in recent years. Over the last 4 years, he's played 20 games. He has 20 touchdowns. That's good, but he has 19 turnovers. 8 of those turnovers are fumbles, and he's fumbled other times that he didn't. So, he at this point in his career, he gets hit. There's a decent chance he's going to fumble. That's been a problem. I mean, 8 fumbles lost in his last 20 games is pretty bad. They haven't won a lot of games. Now, he's been on bad teams, and the Browns are a better team
Well, not
around
just bad
him this
teams,
year.
but a team with an all-time bad line. I mean, the Jets' offensive line was terrible.
I don't know that it wasn't as bad last year as it is this year.
It wasn't good.
It wasn't good, but the Browns' offensive line at the tackle spot is a question mark right now. I'm also concerned, do the Browns have the wide receivers to get open deep down
can
the
they get
field?
separation?
Especially with a banged-up Amari Cooper. I do think, though, in the short term, Joe Flacco, I think for 1 or 2 games, he'll probably play decent football.
We saw that last year.
Yeah.
He started with some really good numbers his first 2 weeks, and then there was a real fast and dramatic regression. Real fast. And then shortly after, he was on the bench, and that was his time with the New York Jets. I do feel good about it. I do. I mean, if I had to say I feel good or bad about Joe Flacco, I think I probably feel better about starting Joe Flacco than I even would about even with a healthy DTR. Just because I like what I want to see what a veteran can do, a true veteran can do with this team.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he'll probably make a couple of throws in this game. We'll be like, wow, we haven't seen a throw like that all season. And that'll be good. I was enjoying the progress DTR was making, and I wanted to keep seeing him playing. Certainly, I'd much rather see him play than P.J. Walker.
I'm telling you, I said it Monday. I really liked that touchdown drive. I really felt like that was the turning point for him. And then he got hit right after that. But boy, it just felt like that was really something for him to build off. And I hope if he – I don't think Flacco's the – I know there seems to be a split. I don't think Flacco's the long-term answer. I think when DTR is healthy, he's back out there. I think.
I think the only question is
talked about that
what if
yesterday.
Flacco plays great?
Yeah, what if he goes for 310, 3 touchdowns,
Then
no
you're going to
picks?
keep playing.
I mean, if that happens –
I mean, don't you have to stay with the hot hand?
He's taking a drug test on Monday if that happens.
Well, stranger things have happened. He
I
threw
think
for
you'd have
nearly
to stay
300
with the
yards
hot
in his
hand.
first 2 games
Even
last
though
year.
I'm with you and I'd rather see DTR, I
Sure.
think you'd have to stay with the hot hand.
Because of the situation.
You're trying to win. You're
It's
trying
a
to make the
race
playoffs.
to 10.
Yes.
You get in the postseason with 10.
Yeah.
Might even be a situation where if he wins against the Rams and you start him against Jacksonville and he wins, maybe you do at that point go back because he wasn't able to sustain a high level of play last year.
Yeah, but if you beat the Rams and Jacksonville back-to-back weeks, he's playing.
But here's the thing. To
Yeah.
the long-term answer, you would much rather see your young gun develop
100%.
Yeah.
and give him 4 games before the playoffs come around to sort of get in that group. If you're 9-4, you're just about punched your ticket. Let DTR go back out there, get a win or 2, better your position, and get valuable experience for the playoffs.
You do have to worry about one thing. He's 30, how old?
38.
He's 38. I'm 40. I woke up feeling terrible. Guess what? After this game, he's going to wake up feeling terrible.
Yeah.
So injuries are a part of this thing. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes down and you go back to DTR.
And he hasn't played in like 12 months,
I
11
imagine
months.
the first time he takes a hit on Sunday will be his first hit in nearly a year.
Yeah.
He's not taking hits in practice
He
this week.
played there he did play at the end of the season for the Jets, so he played January 8th, whatever it was.
Right.
So it's been
So it's
11
11
months.
months.
Hot take prediction: you're gonna see a lot of Wildcat on Sunday.
Really?
I just think like you're
No
Kevin's
intel, just gut.
Kevin's gonna be in his bag. All you people who hate his trick plays,
Hey, hold on.
Kevin's gonna be in his bag on
this
Sunday.
This is the Duke knee jerk. This week I'm all for it.
Clip that.
Now, wait a
Clip
minute.
that.
I want to hear that.
Game you play.
We have to clip that because if any of them go wrong, G's going to kill him.
Right? Like I just think like this is the week you're going to see Harrison Bryant under center. You're going to see
But
Wildcat
don't
with
you see
Gerald
that
Ford.
in the case of
flea
desperation?
flicker.
Is this desperation?
This is you're starting a 38-year-old who was golfing 2 weeks ago.
He's won a Super Bowl.
If this isn't
was a long time
desperation,
ago.
what is?
Hit the button.
When Joe Flacco won a Super
Flip
Bowl,
that.
Anthony was in high school. Just remember that.
Yeah.
It's okay. He's got one.
He does.
That's true.
He's got one.
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw has one. You want to go get him?
Well, come on. Jared Bradshaw has 4.
That's crazy.
Another guy who does have one is Aaron Donald. That's the focus of our next topic. But first, FanDuel. The offers stay hot even when the weather gets cold on America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And if you have a winning ticket, make sure you tweet it at us so it can be featured on the show. Guys, we talked about it slightly yesterday, and we only got a few minutes before Chris Rose joins us, but I wanted to ask you guys this. Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, 2 of the premier pass rushers of the NFL over the last decade, and especially this season. Myles a little banged up, but he was doing push-ups in practice yesterday. He looked to not be favoring his left shoulder any differently than his right shoulder, according to Mary Kay. He has a favorable matchup if he plays against the Rams tackles, while Aaron Donald has to go up against 2 All-Pros in Wyatt Teller and Joe Bitonio. So if you had to pick, which one of the elite pass rushers will have a bigger impact on the game on Sunday?
Guys, I know he's going up against better offensive linemen, but because of the injury, I have to go with Aaron Donald. They're 2 of the best players in the world. Aaron Donald, even at his age, is still the best defensive tackle, isn't he?
Yes.
I mean, I think so.
I mean, he's right up there if he's
And
not
and
the
it's
best.
crazy at his age to still be the best. So Myles Garrett probably the best outside rusher in the league. Aaron Donald's the best interior defensive lineman in the league. I got to lean towards the guy who's healthy. I think Myles Garrett will play well, but if Myles Garrett were healthy, it would be a no-brainer to me. But he's not. He's not going to be 100%. He's Superman, so it's possible. We won't know it. But I'll have to go with Donald because he's healthier.
I think I have to agree with you because we've talked about the guards have to pay so much attention to the tackles this year, especially Joel on the left side with Christian next to him.
Yeah.
That I think it takes away a little bit from what he's trying to do. It's just human nature. And on the right side, Wyatt's a little bit better of a run blocker than he is a pass blocker. DeJuan's a better pass blocker than he is run blocker, and Hudson is what he is. So I think because of the health and because of just the situation, not necessarily the center and guards that Aaron's going against, but just the responsibilities, the added responsibilities that those guards have this year that maybe they didn't have in the past.
Yeah.
I have to give Aaron a slight edge. And until we see Myles, the shoulder is still a concern.
Yeah.
Push-ups and playing against an offensive line.
It's a lot different than all the moves G was talking about you have to be able to do as a defensive end.
Yeah,
and Jason, real quick before you go, G, like in the end, I think guys, when they're healthy, guys like Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett, the matchup's kind of irrelevant. Yeah, if you're going up against a guy who stinks, that's going to make you even better. But no matter how good the offensive lineman is, he's not as good as Aaron Donald.
Right.
So and same thing with Myles Garrett. I don't care who the tackle is. If Myles Garrett's right, he's matchup proof, and so is Donald to me.
I'm gonna go with Aaron Donald on this one just because I think, in this run game, they've not run the ball really well like they used to. Like, they've run it in spurts where it's been pretty good, but they haven't run it in enough times and successfully enough for them to really neutralize Aaron Donald's ability to get after the quarterback. So, they are going to have a situation where they're going to have to pay attention to him. And there's a lot of times on the All-22, the Browns have had trouble passing people off. You see guys coming free, and you're like, I don't know why would you take two guys on one guy? Just passing stuff off has been more difficult, and that's just because
Is that communication?
It's communication and not playing with each other.
Right.
You got two tackles who they're backups, and saying backups is being very nice. And plus, I think Joe Flacco, the most he's going to move is up and back in the pocket, like, try to step up and evade stuff. He's not going to be able to run around and do things. With all the other quarterbacks, Aaron Donald has a chance to come free, and there's a chance that he might not tackle him because of the athletic ability of DTR, Deshaun Watson, or P.J. Walker. That's not there this week. So for me, Aaron Donald, I think, is going to probably have a pretty good game. And if the running backs don't get downfield quick enough, I think that he's going to have a couple tackles for a loss. And it's just Aaron Donald. It is what it is. And Myles Garrett is a little banged up.
Yeah, I think
Did you guys, by the way, Jay, did you guys see that? I was just thinking of this because you said it. Did you see that play when Dak looked like he was dead, sacked?
Oh, yeah.
And he busted. That was
Absolutely.
unbelievable.
I know. He looked good last night. It's in the MVP conversation.
Last 6 weeks, he's playing better than anybody.
Yeah, his numbers have been unreal.
The Cowboys at this time of the year are devastating. They're the best team in the world every year.
They are. They usually fall apart in
See in
December. We'll
January.
see.
And
Yeah.
then the clock strikes and they turn into the Cowboys.
And they've got to figure out a way to get by the Eagles, no matter what.
I think
to get
Dak's
to where they
playing
want
his
to go.
best football, but
I
He is. He's playing very, very well. And really, it's just been a good team effort. Their defense had some breakdowns last night, but
I got Parsons.
I'm with you guys. I have to give the edge to Aaron Donald on this one. And also, you mentioned the quarterbacks. I think because the quarterbacks do. Flacco's the standing target.
Yeah.
Not that Stafford is a mobile quarterback,
Right.
but I think he's able to move around and maybe slide in the pocket a little bit more gracefully right now than Joe Flacco. And because we've seen what this looks like, we have seen what Myles Garrett looks like with a bad left wing. He tried to play with it last year, and we all sat week after week and said, "No, this guy's just not himself. This injury is worse than what we thought or what we're being told." And because of that, I think that I don't think that Aaron Donald's going to be the disruptive force that we've seen him be in the past, but I do think he's going to have a slightly better game and more of an impact on the game than Myles Garrett will. I hope I'm wrong. Hope he proves us wrong. And you're right on the push-up things. There's so many exercises that you can do and pull off, but there's certain moves, live moves, in real time when there's a 300-pounder trying to resist what you're doing, where that can really be problematic. But
by
for the most part,
is this the matchup of the two least mobile quarterbacks in the league?
Could be. Yeah, I haven't looked at the other matchups this week. But I mean, you
mean,
got a
who's
couple of
less
statues.
mobile?
You got a couple of statues
Yeah.
back there for sure.
Not a lot of those guys anymore.
No, the
I'll
league has
take
washed
a
them
look
out.
into that while we're speaking to Chris Rose.
Yeah.
We're going to bring in right now. And Chris Rose today is brought to us by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, what are you waiting for? There's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is simple to use, and they have a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And with that, let's welcome on Chris Rose to the show. What's up, Chris?
What's going on, guys? Happy Friday.
What do you think about Joe Flacco, Chris? Give us your thoughts.
Well, this reminds me exactly of 1988, and for those Browns fans that are old enough to remember that year, it was it was Bernie and then Danielson in week 2 till I think he broke his ankle, and then Mike Pagel, and then they went back to Bernie, who got hurt in that Monday nighter against the Dolphins, and Don Strock was mixed in there, and then Strock had to win that must-win game, week 16, back when they only played 16 weeks. Against the Oilers. In fact, I'm such a sicko, I went back and watched that full game recently.
That was a great game.
So it was a great game. You know, Webster Slaughter with a late touchdown. I mean, essentially it was a playoff game for the Browns a week early. You know, they win, they're in. They lose, they go home. So it's very reminiscent of that. You know, calling Flacco off the couch. He wasn't golfing like Don Strock was every day down in Florida. You know, he was just a father of 4 hanging out in, I think, Philly. But I think it's the right move. I think if obviously DTR is not able to go, PJ Walker's done some nice things for this team, particularly in the fourth quarter against San Francisco and Indianapolis. But I can't watch a guy complete 48% of his passes anymore in a quarterback-driven league. I think that Joe Flacco, with this protection, can do a little bit better than that.
That's the hope. We're going to need him to. How do you think the offense changes? Obviously, 2 completely different styles here. Yeah. What are you expecting to see change-wise from Kevin Stefanski in his approach on offense?
Well, it's a good question, Jay. I mean, I'm going to go out and talk to the coach later today for an interview that'll air on Sunday before the game, and that's one of the questions. I mean, how much can you change? He got signed to the practice squad, 10 days ago? Yeah. And, I don't think they expected him to be playing this quickly. So, how much does that shorten the playbook? It's not just he's replacing DTR. He's replacing DTR, who replaced P.J. Walker, who replaced Deshaun Watson. Those are 3 guys. I'm not going to say they have similar skill sets because Deshaun's is, in my opinion, very different than the other 2 guys. But, we're talking about building mobility into your running program, things of that nature. What was the first play of the game last week? It was a DTR. He kept him. I doubt that'll be the first play this week with Joe Flacco. I guess to me, the most interesting thing will be, Kevin O'Connell had to go through this up in Minnesota with Josh Dobbs on kind of a tighter window because they traded for Dobbs on that Tuesday, and then Dobbs, because Jaron Hall got concussed in a game against Atlanta, had to go in 5 days later. And O'Connell's literally walking Josh Dobbs through each play as long as he can in that headset. How much is that going to take place this week with Joe Flacco? That's something I'll be curious about.
Chris, I was as I was driving, and I thought to myself, it's weird a little bit. Kevin Stefanski is pretty much the only guy that I can learn something about this year. Like, I'll learn whether or not his team responds, whether he can, is he good for a couple of games when he doesn't have top-notch talent. Because the rest of the team, there's still a bunch of question marks going into next year. It's almost like a time warp. We wanted to know about Deshaun Watson. We still don't know. Now we got a question about Nick Chubb and the knee. We don't know. There's a lot of different other places, whether or not your tackles are good moving forward. But it just seems as if they make the playoffs. I feel a lot better about all those question marks in the offseason. Am I crazy for that?
No, I mean, I think you have to look at the players certainly on an individual basis, whether they're coming back from injury or how much money they're going to make, because that's something that the Browns have to start looking at. For the longest time, we didn't have to because we weren't talented enough to start re-upping guys. And so if guys were going to walk, you were like, good. We need new guys in their place. Now we have actually so much talent. I mean, it's guys like Grant Delpit, who's in his walk year, JOK, who's going to be a year from free agency next season. Those are guys you want to lock up that you hope that the mathematical wizards who deal with the salary cap are able to work around that and keep them here. As far as Kevin Stefanski, I do want to say this, that is he a perfect play caller? No, right? I mean, the play at the beginning of the fourth quarter, I think, drove a lot of us nuts. It wasn't so much the idea of the call, but asking a guy in Pierre Strong who hadn't touched the ball all game, basically, to handle it on a double reverse. I thought that was kind of tough. But what you tell me, what playoff contender has lost as much high-priced talent as the Browns have this year, right? I mean, nobody has, right? We see what happened with the Bengals in a short span, and I think it could get ugly for them just without Joe Burrow, right? Here the Browns have lost their starting quarterback, both tackles, the best pure running back in the league, in my opinion. That's a lot. Those are high-priced guys that they're losing left and right, and they're currently holding a wild card spot as we head into Week 13. I think for people that go nuts over Kevin Stefanski and let's get rid of him, they have a serious inability to see the big picture here. And I just want to let you know, I cover all 32 teams. Most fan bases cannot stand their play caller, whether it's their head coach or their offensive coordinator. It's true. They do not. They're like, oh, you're an idiot. Why are you calling this? Calling plays is not easy. Being a head coach and a play caller, there's very few guys that are able to do that well. I actually think Kevin does a pretty good job with it, and I think we got to get off his back because he's done a hell of a job.
Chris, I agree with you. We had that same conversation yesterday, and I don't think that point's been talked about enough. The Browns and all of the attrition that they've had on their roster are still right there. And you mentioned the Bengals. I mean, yeah, granted, Joe Burrow means more to their team than even Deshaun Watson means to this team. But it was funny how as soon as he was out,
I made that point.
Everybody said, season's over, let's play for a draft pick. And your colleagues, I was watching the other day when I was working out on the NFL Network, I thought did a marvelous job of driving home the point of exactly what you just said. We're too close to the fire. And the 30,000 feet view sometimes is the one that you have to pay attention to. Everyone on the network a couple of days ago was saying, this guy's going to get Coach of the Year votes just for keeping this team together and holding this really disastrous season from an injury standpoint together. And sometimes we're so far in the weeds in the minutia of every play call that we tend to be overly critical. But I'm with you. Stefanski's done.
Well, not Jason and I. We've defended Kevin Stefanski all year.
Well, listen,
unlike most of this town.
No, I don't think that's true.
That's true.
No, most of this town would mean 51% of fans want him fired. It's not. It's nowhere near that. It's just not.
Go ahead, Chris.
Jay, I was actually more curious. So, you did the nice power drop in of while I was working out. Was it a back and buys day? Was it a Justin tries?
No, it was actually.
What was it?
I have to confess, I have a torn UCL, so I can't do any weights. It was actually cardio.
So wait a second. You're not going to be ready for spring training, or you are, or what are you going to be like?
I don't know. I'm still in the decision making process. One expert says get the Tommy John. Another one says at your age you want to keep pitching. There's no guarantees. You're about 12 months if you do have the surgery. So I think I'm going to go with PRP shots and
Tanaka. Talk to Tanaka.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm gonna roll the dice. It's not like I'm waiting on a $600 million contract like someone else.
Jay, if I see you coming out like the Field of Dreams from some crops, Jay Crawford
with an elbow sling,
200 years old, still throwing pitches.
Hey, Chris,
I'll quit it when I die.
Is it class photo day for you guys? You all look so nice.
Well, we're doing the TV show. It's funny you said that because on Fridays we do 30 minutes on Channel 3. So we have a dress code.
So you got the honor roll kids over there in jackets. You got the derelicts over here.
These are the back of the bus gang right here.
I mean, we look
I'm just happy they're wearing pants today.
Wait, are you? That's the question.
Why would you?
Hey, listen, I'm in my home office, so there's
you can do whatever you want.
I do my podcast. I do my home podcast in my underwear all the time. Chris,
TMI.
I know
By
you
the way,
want
that's not gonna help you.
It's not going to help me doing it in my underwear.
Or followers, it's not going to work.
Oh, it certainly does. People have fat fetishes. You know, Chris. Listen.
Do you have an OnlyFans page?
Yeah, I certainly should. Let's talk from a Rams perspective.
Cancel subscription.
Yeah, come on now. That's inappropriate. Let's talk about from a defensive perspective from the Browns, because the Rams have two of the biggest guys that have come out of nowhere on offense. Puka Nacua, obviously, who was a late-round pick this year, and Kyren Williams, who was a late-round pick last year by the Rams. They've both been sensational. Williams comes off IR last week, has a massive game. Who are you more concerned about, I guess, the passing game or the running game with Kyren Williams from a Browns perspective?
Kyren Williams. Yeah, they were it was consecutive years where they used fifth-round picks on those guys. So Kyren Williams came out of Notre Dame a year ago, was banged up, really didn't get much of an opportunity. And then Puka Nacua this year, obviously, first 2 weeks, 25 catches, set a rookie record for most catches in his first 2 weeks. He's closing in on 1,000 yards on the season. Only 5 rookies have done that. From the 5th round on, I think is what it is, or something ridiculous. I'll check my notes and make sure I get that ready for Sunday. I'll have it buttoned up. But the point is that Kyren Williams, he's really explosive, and he looks fresh. I get it. It was against Arizona, who's one of the worst teams in the league and really can't tackle anybody and doesn't put pressure on the passer and all that sort of stuff. But this is the sort of running back that can give the Browns some issues. He's a little bit like Warren out of Pittsburgh, I think, with his shiftiness, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Had 204 scrimmage yards, so he's the guy that I would circle even more so than Cooper Kupp, who's a bit banged up and just hasn't had a Cooper Kupp season. So he's the number one guy I'm focused on if I'm Jim Schwartz this week.
Hey, Chris, let's wrap it up with this. Chris will be on the call, of course, on the radio this weekend. So obviously people will be listening because nobody wants to listen to Mark Sanchez on TV. Chris didn't say that, I did. Chris, do you have any faith that the Guardians will actually have major league players playing left field and right field this year?
He'll throw in
Well,
center.
that's not fair. Stephen Kwan is...
Let me correct. Major
Stephen
league
Kwan.
power hitters. Major league power hitters.
Oh, okay.
I want to move Kwan to center. Miles Straw's not a starting player. It's absurd that he's been a starter for this long. Kwan in center, and we need to get some corner outfielders with some power. Are they going to do it? You have any faith?
The Laureano deal makes it a little more skeptical for me, really, to be honest with you. I think that they're like, okay, well, we can, we're going to pay him $5 or $6 million or whatever they signed him up for to avoid arbitration. And that's the one that scares me. Like, I think he's a great fourth outfielder. You can play him all over the place. He's a really good defender. He's got a little bit of pop. But if he's the guy who you're saying, yeah, that's our opening day right fielder and we're content with it, I think they're looking at this the wrong way. Listen, I've been as big a Guardians backer as there is in terms of the front office philosophy. I understand that they're real limited because of the Dolan's payroll, but I thought that Chris Antonet was a little off base at the conclusion of last season where he said, home runs aren't the end-all, be-all. When he said that, I get it. It's not the number one thing you're looking for from all 9 guys in the order, but I would like it with more than 1 or 2.
Yeah.
That's what's going to win, and that's what's going to help you win come October. It's what prevented us, I thought, from turning on the Yankees there eventually in that 5-game series in 2022. So I'll still cut them the benefit of the doubt because they've been so good, but that's the Laureano thing is the thing that's kind of giving me a little pause.
Yeah, they've got to get much better in the power game, that's for sure. Chris Rose, good luck on the call. We'll be listening. Always good to have you on.
All right, guys, enjoy class later today. You guys look great, and the other 2 slobs, we'll see you on Monday with a better dressing.
Chris, I think
I got detention.
I think you should call the game in your underwear. That's what I'm suggesting for you.
Pause.
Yeah, that's
That's not gonna
well,
happen.
we are in Los Angeles. We've seen people dressed in very different things at times out here, so you never know what they're flying out here so far.
Go for it.
All right,
Thanks,
I'll see you
Chris.
Sunday, guys.
All right.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
Hey, Jay's got a new nickname for you.
Okay.
Wait, are you gonna make me say that?
Yes!
It just hit me.
Bro, I almost threw up on
When
myself.
you
about
said
died.
OnlyFans page.
Yes.
I said,
Yeah.
well, he can't go on as himself.
Yeah.
And he probably can't show his face because that wouldn't be good. I can't say that, man.
Oh, you have to say it now.
No, I'll let you.
Go ahead.
Adam the Bulge.
Very funny. Hey, the ladies are impressed. So it's appropriate.
Let me find
Jay
out.
meant it in an insulting way, but
I did not.
I'm taking it in a different way.
Actually, I did not.
The
I mean,
biggest compliment you can get.
in a
Bull.
joking way.
that would be it would draw attention
That's
just on
true.
your sign name.
That's true.
Listen, let me find out in my late night searches you come across my screen.
You can't.
G. Bush, if I find your search history and at 3:30 in the morning you're searching Adam
the
Bulge,
Bulge.
I have an issue.
What the heck
There's
is
no
this?
way. Like, guys can't be making money doing that on. Women make a ton of money.
Oh, no.
Oh, the women are killing it.
Yeah.
Guys.
Did you see the
Everybody-
teacher that got
everybody
fired?
is.
Made $1
Everybody
million
is.
her first month.
Guys.
There's been a couple teachers.
She would have
Guys
had
do
to
get
work
money.
45 years to do that.
Yeah.
There's been police officers. The guys do make money. There's a guy named Tiger who's a rapper.
How do you know?
Wait a minute, you know a lot about this.
Yeah, listen, I
I'm
told
saying,
you,
like,
the internet is alive and
I'm
well.
saying from like a stripper sexual standpoint, it's mostly women.
He made like $26 million on
What?
OnlyFans.
Doing music or doing other stuff.
No, OnlyFans
You
is
don't
a
go to
music
OnlyFans
page.
for
Yeah,
music.
It's not Pandora.
I don't know. Is it only sexual stuff on there?
I think it is. But it's weird stuff like a buddy of mine was telling me that there is you said the fat fetish. There's women that will
do
This
anything.
is true. They will sit there and eat pies naked. And guys pay money
That's
to
fine.
watch it.
I got no problem with that.
I'm
I
not
don't
shaming
judge
anybody. If you're into whatever you like,
No,
good for you.
I don't
whatever
judge
you're
either,
into. You're
but-
into. But there's something for everybody.
But I think I'm with
Yeah.
you. I would guess, and I don't know that there's anything to figure it out. I would think that the revenue that's being pulled in,
Yeah.
I would guess it would be 95% from the women.
Of course, because men are more I don't know. Perverted's not.
So
the right
here's
word, whatever.
I'm just
Didn't expect this conversation. today.
We've had strippers. We've
Men are
had
more likely-
OnlyFans.
If you had Adam the Bulge on your bingo card, you win.
Men are much
It
more
must be
likely to
Friday.
pay for sex.
I think that's
than
that's
women are.
that's the right way to say it. That's the right way to say it.
However, usually the people, how guys make money is there's couples on there.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And they're not looking at you; they're looking at the other person.
Right.
That's how it works.
Yeah, but there's money to be made, man.
There it
They're
is.
making
They make a lot
millions,
of money.
man. It's
Mom, I'm not
unbelievable.
gonna have an OnlyFans. Don't worry about it. That's
What would your OnlyFans name be?
root beer thoughts.
You came up with that awfully quick.
I came
Someone
up
do
with
a
something.
Google search for root beer thoughts.
I'm
It could
scared.
already
I'm
be a
not
thing.
Googling anything that we've
What
talked
is the
about today.
what's the
I'm
meaning
technically-
behind root beer thoughts?
Well, it's you think about really crazy things like root beers are funny. Like you could do. Not too many people drink root beer, but root beer floats are good.
I love them.
So when you have root beer thoughts, that's like something strange that you
There
don't
you
have
go.
all the time. And
By the
it
way,
tastes like root
you know how
beer.
you could get a drink from a fountain soda, at a
Yeah.
restaurant or whatever. If you have root beer in one thing, you can never put another drink in there.
There it
Never.
is. Never.
It's the only.
Wait, why?
It's the only because you can't get that taste
It's
or
the
smell
taste.
out of there.
It's done. It's almost.
I know that from my Pizza Hut days in my early 20s.
You used to manage a Pizza Hut.
I
didn't you?
managed a Pizza,
Pizza
Hut.
Hut used to have them cloudy glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Them little brown cloudy little plastic cups.
Do you have any pictures of you in a Pizza Hut
I
uniform?
do. I have
Please,
one.
For the sake of all of us,
Yes.
let us see one once.
I will get it.
All right, good. I'd like to see that.
I should bring in this. I have a CD, or not a CD, a DVR that my wife made for my 40th birthday of, it's like a 4-minute video of me through the years.
Adam the
And
Bull, life
one of those
and times.
pictures is me in my Pizza Hut.
Oh,
uniform.
great. Well, it'd be easy for you to find. We want to see it on the show Monday.
Executive producer Steve Becker texted us and said he just bought AdamTheBulge.com. He Googled Adam the Bulge and there's nothing there.
yeah!
So
I
you got
want
Elaine.
royalties. That was mine.
McNuggets.
No, Jason said it on air, so it's Jason's. You're too scared to
I
say
wrote
it on air,
it.
Jay. You're
And I-
too scared
it's
to
a
say it
poor
on
man's
air.
Yeah, now he wants
a
credit
poor
for
man's
it.
Hey,
copyright.
if I'm putting the content on there, then I'm keeping all the money.
That's right.
McNuggets, we are playing a dangerous game on
Yeah,
Friday.
let's
so
move
let's-
on.
pulling
It's time for a
fans through that
5-piece of McNuggets.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm glad we did this on the YouTube
That's his
show because if we
OnlyFans
did
page
that,
name. Little McNuggets.
if we did that on the TV show, we would have been in a lot of
This is
trouble.
funny, yeah.
And from 12:30 to 1 o'clock, we go from YouTube to Channel 3. Make sure you guys check us out there. You can't get this kind of content on WKYC. You can't find it on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube channel. We have 30 minutes of coverage that we have not done yet that's coming to you on WKYC. All right, it's time for a 5-pack of McNuggets. I'm going to refrain from making a joke there. We're going to get to it.
Share it.
5 stats that you got to know for Sunday's game against the Rams. 5 stats that are imperative that you guys need to know to make you a smarter football fan.
By the way, before you go, I want to give you a shout out. You've done a marvelous job with this segment. It's always informative. We always learn something with these stats. And for people that don't know, to get these kind of stats takes a ton of research and digging. So kudos to you for all your hard work on this segment.
Thank you. Anthony helped me on one of these today, so I'll give Anthony a shout out where the research came up. But first, if the Browns want to beat the Rams, they got to catch the ball. And that sounds simple, but over the last 2 games, according to PFF, they have 9 drops as a team. That's the most in football. Their 60.1 PFF receiving grade as a team is the lowest in football over the 2 weeks. On the season, they have 26 drops, second most in the NFL, only behind Kansas City, which we saw in that Monday Night Football game against the Chiefs. Marquise Valdez-Scantling dropped the game-winning touchdown. They've also had a lot of drops. How about this? 35% of the team's drops in the entire season have come in the last 2 weeks. And 9.5% of all Browns passes thrown by any quarterback, Deshaun, DTR, PJ Walker, if it's been on target, they've dropped 10%. That is by far
That is
the highest mark in the NFL.
What's number 2?
It was down to like 7.3%.
That's stunning. 1 out of every 10 passes.
That's on
Are drops.
1 of every 10 on-target
passes are drops. That's
That's
stunning.
horrible.
Now, I do think that we talked about this even before he played his first game because he threw 62 miles an hour at the combine, and that's the fastest it's ever been recorded. What's interesting to me is you said 35% of the drops have come in fewer than 20% of their games. There's your answer. It's the ball he throws. The receivers aren't
Josh
used to it
Allen
yet.
throws hard. Where are the Bills? Do you have that handy?
No, but the thing is, his receivers are used to catching
That's
it from
true.
Josh
That's
Allen.
true. That's
This was
fair.
a midseason change.
And if you go
they
back to
weren't ready
Josh
for it.
Allen, when they brought in Stephon Diggs, he had drop issues early on. I
Yeah.
wonder
I remember
if there
he did.
is
You're right.
a correlation that maybe you can throw the ball too hard in certain
Well,
situations. Or you
I've talked
definitely
to
can,
receivers
but-
before that have said
Yeah.
it's you got to when you play for a quarterback that hurts your hands, you've got to work with jugs machines because you can't wear
get
your
used to
quarterback's arm out
Right.
by practicing that. So you got to crank that jugs up to 65 miles an hour and get used to it.
We on kickers all the time. You got one job. Catch the ball. That's it.
I don't want to hear about it being too hard.
We're not paying you for blocking.
Yeah.
All right, Adam the Bulge.
I look at it like this, man.
That's a super duper pause.
super up top. Change lives. Change lives.
Jay's out for the next minute and a half.
Man, suit jacket Jay.
Get it all
is
out
the
now.
funniest
'cause at
ever been.
12:30,
Let's
you
go.
gotta
Let's
put on your
go.
game
Pull it
face.
together.
We don't carry this over to 12:30, guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
But
the
I will-
FCC's watching.
But I will say though, it is hard for me to understand why the Browns just cannot develop receivers. I mean, just be average, like just middle of the road.
I feel like they've been, now I could be wrong, Mike, and I don't know how quickly you can look this up, but it seems to me they've been near the top in drops for years.
Years. Or maybe
I don't
we
know
too-
if
are we
that's
too close to the
actually
fire?
true.
I
but
don't
it
know
seems
that.
that
I've
way.
never seen a metric that keeps that season by season, but I'm sure we can find
I mean,
it somewhere.
it seems like every year they
But
got a
Bull,
problem
you're right.
with that.
It does, and you're also right. You talk about a Puka Nacua is a find in the 5th round, and we've taken 3 in the 3rd round recently, and some of them are selling insurance or doing whatever. They're not wearing a football uniform anymore.
I feel. Hey, listen, Cedric Tillman had his best game last week. If he has
did.
a good game with Flacco this week, I think we'll start to get excited about him.
I will absolutely get excited.
Right?
about
I mean,
it,
like,
sure.
if he has, like, I'm waiting for, like, these, I want a 100-yard game from somebody not named Amari Cooper.
It'd be great.
That'd be
I
awesome.
I don't think you'll see it this year.
The Tillman thing is odd because I thought where he would help is red zone, high point, and
Sure.
fade routes in the end zone. We haven't seen any of that.
None of
No,
that.
None.
He's a bigger
Zero.
receiver. Use him to his skill set.
And hopefully that's what's coming. But you know,
Yeah.
when you talk about how hard they're throwing the ball, I'll go back. I mentioned on Monday that throw that he made to Harrison Bryant in the end zone was like unnecessary roughness. Scott Bakula to Featherstone, like it was 110 miles an hour, hit him in the face.
Don't throw it to Stoneheads.
and Harrison Bryant caught it and wrapped it up like a
It was self-defense
a
because-
I think it was
newborn.
self-defense.
It was a concussion if he
A
didn't catch it.
newborn. I got it. No.
By the way, did you know Jason Bateman was one of the players on that team?
Yeah,
right?
that's
you remember
right. And Kathy
He
Ireland
was.
was the kicker.
that? Yeah, that's right.
Wow. Wow.
What a name! What a name from the past.
I know you've got a lot more stats. And this a 30-second answer from Jay. The problematic drafting of wide receivers. Are they doing something wrong analytically? As they're clearly they're missing.
Yeah.
So something in the pre-draft evaluation is woefully off.
Well, it's silly. I think the answer is draft him higher because we talked about it a couple weeks ago. We went through the list. It's not like I think there was one guy, Amon St. Brown, they missed.
Yeah.
You could say Nakua that they missed.
Yeah.
But, 29 other teams did too, or 31 other teams did too. It's not like they've missed in 4 and 5 and 6. They're not missing on first round
No, I get that.
picks.
But the weird
They're
thing
missing
about
on third
Nakua, when
rounders.
we had the lockdown writer from the Rams on, he said that Sean McVay said in the day after the draft, we don't think Nakua is going to be a difference maker. We know he is.
Yeah.
They were that confident. So I'd like to know what they saw, how
if
they
they were that
evaluated
confident,
him.
why'd they wait till the 5th round
Well,
to take him?
you're right. I'm sure that at some point they were like, we got to take him.
Right.
And they did. So they get credit for that, where the 31 other teams passed on him 4
Yeah,
times.
it's a silly answer, but take him higher, and you got a
Okay.
bigger bowl. You got a bigger target that you're throwing.
Well,
at.
and in that vein, I think their draft philosophy is likely flawed because they haven't placed a higher priority on what has clearly been an area of need for decades.
Well, and again, they haven't had a first-round pick in a while.
Right.
No,
But
then-
they could have used the second-round pick on a wide receiver.
True.
I think that the places that they targeted were clear areas of need as well in those higher picks. Now, you can argue, and
Well,
that's
they've
why
addressed some of those in free agency. They haven't really addressed they went out and made the trade for Cooper, and they did get Landry and Beckham, which we thought would be surefire hits, and
Right.
for a
Elijah
while
Moore.
they were.
and more.
Most.
Bolt, to your answer, the Browns were 4th last season in the NFL in total drops. But in 2021, they were 21st. So
Okay.
not necessarily so high. All right, stat number
Wait,
2.
what was
are
different
some,
about 21?
What do you say?
What was different about 21?
the receivers. That would have been Landry and
That would have been
Odell, right?
Beckham.
But that was the year that Baker didn't play well, that he was hurt.
Yeah, 4.8 drop percentage in 2021.
Where were they in 2020, by the way? Do you have that or no? Don't worry if you don't.
I'll pull it up 1 sec. Give me 1
Yeah.
sec to adjust. I got hit back a season. It drops in 2020.
That was
We
their
go
playoff
through.
year.
The year the Browns made the playoffs, they were near the bottom of the league. 21 drops.
Okay.
4.2 drop percentage. So
So I think a lot of that has to
So
do
it's
with who
just
they're
been the
throwing
last
to.
2 years.
It's who they're throwing to.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Get wide receivers that can catch the football.
in defense
Got
of
one job.
the
Seems pretty basic.
receivers,
It's not their thing, catching passes.
in defense of their receivers, a little bit is there hasn't been consistency at quarterback for the
Yeah,
last
they've
2
had
years.
they've had
That's
bad
true.
quarterback play.
Number 2, this one's more of just an anomaly, but the Browns have not won a game in the Pacific time zone in over a decade.
Wow.
They are 0-8 in the Pacific time zone. Their last win in the Pacific time zone was against the Oakland Raiders back in 2012. That was when Brandon Weeden and Josh Gordon led the Browns to a victory there. 0-8 since then. They're 0-1 this season. They lost to Seattle. I don't know how you got to – they don't play there often, but they haven't won in over a decade. I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's when
so we
Gordon
can kind of
was
skip
weeding.
through that
Maybe
one.
they all need to be weeding.
Gordon
I mean,
was,
it is
yeah.
legal out there.
Man, I thought Whedon was going to be good. I
I
got to
can't.
admit it.
I cannot believe he wasted his career and weed is now legal. That's crazy.
He was born
Yeah.
15 years too
Hey,
soon.
look, he had other issues,
He did.
but in terms of his career, it would have been different had pot
Dang,
been legal.
bro. That's crazy.
I think a lot of his issues, and I know he had them before he got to Cleveland.
Yeah.
But I think they were magnified because football was taken away from him.
Yeah.
When it wouldn't
Yeah.
today.
Remember, he was drafted in the supplemental draft, which
He was.
You rarely have players
Baylor,
drafted in that
right?
anymore.
Baylor. Yeah.
Out of Baylor. All right, we'll move on to number 3. This one's interesting, and I think this is going to be telling to see how Kevin Stefanski uses Amari Cooper. His target share, and based on his connection with different quarterbacks, has varied drastically this season. In 3 games with DTR, he only was averaging 6.67 targets. With PJ Walker, he was averaging 9 targets a game. With Deshaun Watson, 7.8. Now, that's only a slight percentage when you see overall targets, but PJ Walker was relying on him more than DTR, and we talked about how DTR and Amari never seemed to be on the same page. In totality this season, he's only catching 54% of his targets, which is by far the lowest catch percentage of any of the top receivers in football. And I put him in the top 15, 20 category, so I was
Do we
looking at
know
those
how
guys.
many of his targets were?
Catchable versus uncatchable?
Yeah.
It totally depends on what metric you're looking at and how
Yeah,
you deem
because the
catchable,
drop
uncatchable.
metric can be different from.
Exactly. But then this was interesting, too. And I know we've talked about his home road splits. I didn't realize how drastic they were. He is so much better at home than he is on the road. He's played more games on the road, by the way.
Is that for his career?
That's for his career. He's played more
And
games
more
on the
games
road.
on the road.
2 more games. So it's almost 50-50 split, but 2 more games on the road than he has at home. However, at home, He has 44 more catches, 1,200 more yards, and 15 more touchdowns.
How would you guys explain
Don't know
that?
how to explain
Quarterbacks
it.
play better at home. Generally speaking, if you go on the road, quarterbacks don't light it up. I mean, unless you got a top 5 quarterback, usually, generally speaking, they play better on the road. So
I'd love to see how that compares to other good wide receivers. If that's
Yeah,
a
I
trend.
would too.
I never
Give
think
me-
about
give me-
that in
give me a
football. We think about it
receiver.
in baseball.
Yeah.
But in football, you never really think
we
about that.
really think about it in basketball when you talk about home
Sure.
versus road splits.
Especially
depending
like
on-
the second
Bull,
level.
give me a
players.
receiver. Give me. I'll pull up someone right now. Give me a receiver.
Justin Jefferson. Go.
Somebody
Tyreek
that's
Hill,
played a
Justin
while,
Jefferson.
though. I feel like it's got to be
Tyreek
somebody
Hill.
that's played a
Go
while.
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek
All right,
Hill.
give me a sec.
Yeah.
Because he's played with 2 different teams.
Yeah, I wonder.
And his career's long enough
I've
to
never
know.
asked receiver this. I wonder if it has to do with sight lines, and every stadium's different. And when you're trying to track
Like
the ball,
shooting in basketball.
the lights in the arenas are different.
Depth of perception.
Yeah, and your comfort. Obviously, you're at home more. You're more comfortable at home. But I just wonder when you're running routes, you're looking for the ball.
Yeah.
If it's different, if different sight lines in different stadiums and signage, and who knows what distracts you.
The only problem with
He's got the numbers.
You got it?
I got Tyreek Hill's.
Yeah.
And it's going to blow your mind. Tyreek Hill has played 1 more game on the road than he has at home. But on the road, he has 1,000 more yards and 19 more touchdowns.
Wow. On the road. See,
On the road?
The only
On
thing
the
I'll
road.
say with Tyreek Hill, why
Jeez.
it's not a great comparison to me, is because Tyreek Hill has played with great quarterbacks. I mean,
But
he
what
played
about Keenan Allen?
arguably the best.
Keenan Allen, is that a decent comparison?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, give me
Okay.
1 sec.
It's not necessarily the total number though. You're looking at. You're just looking at for the split.
Right.
The home road split, not
right, but
necessarily the total.
G said
So
that-
he's playing with a great quarterback at home and on the road, so it
that's
should bring
true.
both levels up. There's not a control in that experiment.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen's
That's
almost 50-50. Keenan Allen has 29 touchdowns at home, 30 touchdowns on the road. He's got 400 more yards at home than on the road.
It is an interesting stat, and Bull, you're right. Something I've never thought about.
Never.
I would. You know,
I think about it in baseball all the time, and I think about it basketball in the playoffs
Sure.
especially.
But-
But I never thought about it in football, ever.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
not an anomaly. That's a
But
fact.
yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
interesting.
What
And
else
he
you
dropped the pass last week against Denver. In Denver, I'm not saying it has anything to do with being home or road, but for
Right.
whatever reason, that just stuck out to me as an anomaly.
got? Yeah, no, it's,
And I hadn't
it's,
really saw it before.
It's interesting for sure.
All right, next one. This comes from ESPN's Next Gen Stats. So don't ask me any context or how to quantify it because this is way out of my range. But they tweeted this out and it blew my mind. Kyron Williams, the Rams running back who we've spoken at length about, has 113 carries this year. He has not faced an 8-man box. Not once. 0 times. That is the most carries they've ever tracked for a running back without facing a single stacked box. Now, what does that mean? Look at that bottom part. He's averaging 2.4 yards per carry before contacts this season. That's the #1 number in the NFL of any
sure,
running back
because-
with 30 carries.
Yeah, because he's not.
They have
facing
Nakua,
defenders.
they have Kupp, they got Stafford. Teams are saying, hey, run the ball,
and
he's killed them.
and that's exactly why he's
But-
hasn't seen those 8-man boxes.
It's so weird, though, because Stafford hasn't been great. I know. Listen, I'm not watching him every week. The guy we had on from the Rams said, yeah, he's playing very well. Obviously, the statistics are not very, they're okay. But he's not, it's not like he's not the same Matthew
Where's
Stafford.
Stafford ranked, just QBR or any metric that you want to go for measuring quarterbacks? Let's find out where he fits in with everybody
Yeah.
else. Because I haven't tracked it and I don't know.
Yeah.
I would think.
I would think he'd be upper half for sure.
Well, I would go back to the stat that Mike just gave. If Denzel was playing in this game, I'd like the odds a lot more of stacking the box.
yeah, I agree
Right.
with that.
And
yeah.
no Denzel.
I can't understand. Like, Cooper Kupp is not doing anything.
No, but I think teams are still respecting him. And because they have 2 now.
Yeah.
That is such that's a weapon when you've got 2 elite receivers that you can roll out there. Even if Kupp has been hurt and hasn't put up those numbers, you still have to respect what he did
But
last
it's not
year.
the best wide receiver combo in the league. There's definitely a lot better.
No, it's not the best, but
Yeah.
they're very good together.
But Kupp hasn't been good this year.
Well, it hasn't been Kupp, but where is he compared to everybody else? Because we're used to him putting up 100 yards a game.
Yeah, no, but he's not
And he
even close
hasn't
to
done that. But
Yeah.
like if you put him on the Browns, if you gave his numbers to a Browns receiver, I'd take them.
I mean, he missed some time, so
He did,
his
so it's hard
numbers
to
are still
say.
not great. But
Right.
Go ahead, Mike.
He's essentially between 11 and 14 in QBR, QB rating,
Okay.
what I would've
efficiencies.
guessed.
He's
Yeah.
average. He's been average this year.
Yeah, a little above.
Probably, yeah, a little above average, like solid, but like I'm certainly not worried about Matthew Stafford killing us.
Well, their run game also means he doesn't have to do as much lifting
Right.
throwing.
But Kyren Williams missed 4 or 5 games.
He did.
Teams is catching up, man. Listen, it's a cycle. Teams is figuring out. Look, I know we was used to throw the ball, but when somebody run the ball on you, it's devastating. Like Kyron Williams is the reason you'll see Puka Nacua wide open, because you got to have somebody up there, and so it's a pick your poison type thing. So I think the run game opens up all that other stuff that they want to do. And by the way, when McVay's teams are lights out, go back to the Todd Gurley teams where they were able to run that wide zone and still throw the ball, and everything looked the same. They was putting up 40 points a game. You had to pick what you was going to take away. Everything looked the same.
Will they see 8-man fronts Sunday?
No.
You don't think they'll do it?
Would.
Without Denzel Ward, though, you're right.
You can't.
You're really
makes it
exposing
tricky.
Greg, and we saw last week what happened.
Yeah, they'll expose that quickly. They saw the tape.
I don't know. I'm more worried about Kyron Williams than anything they're doing.
I am too.
For me.
Yeah,
I am too.
Yeah.
So am I, but you might play right into their hands if you do stack boxes and you do try to shut down Williams. It is a pick your poison scenario because Stafford's good enough. One of those two guys will be open on most routes, and he'll kill you that way too.
And we've seen the Browns out to this thing. We've seen the Browns have trouble getting ball carriers down in open space. If they break the first defense, you had Warren that did it.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham Jr. took off.
Yeah.
I think Pittman did the same thing in Indianapolis.
Pickens
did it.
Yeah.
So they got trouble
Running
with
back
that.
from Baltimore gassed him too. That young kid.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely
Yeah,
you
right.
did. All right, what's the last stat?
So the last stat is a little bit of an appreciation post to someone we've talked about a little on this. We've talked a little bit about all week, but Aaron Donald is that dude. He's that good. And I was doing some research, and I couldn't not include this. So he has 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. That's tied for first all time. Do you guys know real quick who the other 2 players with 3 DPOYs are?
Lawrence Taylor.
I would think Taylor did it.
And Reggie White.
Nope, it's recent.
T.J. Watt.
His brother, JJ.
Oh, J.J. Watt. Yeah.
JJ has 3. So Aaron Donald, JJ Watt, Lawrence Taylor, the only 3 players of all time with 3 DPOYs. He has 7 first-team All-Pros, which is tied for 13th all-time. Jerry Rice and Jim Otto have 10. But he's made first-team All-Pro 7 consecutive years.
Jeez.
No one's ever done that before. We understand PFF. It's not perfect, right? But he was the number 1 graded pass rusher from any position from 2015
That's
to
stunning.
2020.
With
And
all the defensive end
2022
pass rushers,
it says there.
2022.
even up to last year.
Up to last year. And this season, his season grade is an 89.8.
Where's
That's
that rank?
his lowest season grade of his career.
That's currently not number 1?
That's not currently. No, Dexter Lawrence is technically graded higher as a defensive tackle, but his season grade of 89.8,
Which
we
is
do all
phenomenal.
the PFF stuff.
Elite.
He's never had a season, even going back to his rookie season, where he didn't grade over a 90 in PFF. Just
he's had a whole-
enjoy watching him play is what
Yeah.
this
Essentially,
enjoy it.
he's played like a Hall of Famer every year of his career, without exception.
I don't think people.
Yeah.
I don't think they.
I mean,
You're
it's
all
absurd.
pro every year?
Yeah, I mean, he's absurd.
No, he was not an All-Pro his rookie year. He was drafted in 14.
7 straight, though, right?
7 straight, so from 15, so his second season in the league till last season, and he has a
By
chance
the
to
way,
do it
it's
again
tough
this
to
season.
be all pro as a rookie.
He's
Any
played.
position.
He's played less than 10 years.
He was the draft pick. Do you know who was drafted right before him?
In what? It was 14.
24. Jadeveon Clowney was first overall in that draft. He played in Cleveland for a little bit, but he wasn't drafted by Cleveland. And he goes by 3 letters. OBJ.
Oh.
Let me tell you this. This guy, first of all, you already get a bump just by playing D tackle. Do you know how hard it is to have any production as a defensive tackle? You're essentially getting triple teamed every single play. They don't expect you to make some plays on the run, but his pass rush and his pressure at D tackle is just jaw dropping. Like, you know, when Warren Sapp says
That was my comparison as Warren Sapp.
he said he's already the best. His numbers is crazy. Like, he gets pressure like he's a DN.
Besides Warren Sapp, I can't even think of another defensive tackle at that
Who's
level
the
in
big
the
guy
last
for
20, 30
Baltimore?
years.
Baltimore had one.
Haloti Nagata.
Hello,
Well, Vince
Yeah.
Wilfork with New England.
Wilfork was good.
but not as good as
Not
Donald.
a pass rusher,
No.
though, but a terrific run stopper.
I think of like John Randall, Cortez Kennedy.
Yeah.
All the great pass
Those guys are
rushers
great,
usually
yeah.
come off the ends.
John Randall is the only defensive tackle with more sacks than Aaron Donald, by the way.
How many does Randall have?
Like 138. And Donald's at like 108. Yeah.
Goodness.
How many does Donald have?
I believe 108. I'll double check, but I believe 108.
I got to talk to Leroy about John Randall. John Randall, that's 138 at D tackle is
That's
insane.
Did he play D tackle his whole career?
Yes.
And he's talked about John Randall before,
Yeah,
too,
he's
as being
mentioned him.
an ultimate professional during practice. Like, high motor all the time, leading the charge, leading by example. Leroy said nobody dare dogged it ever for one play in practice because John Randall would rip their head off.
Yeah. And at this point in his career, Aaron Donald's playing with a lot of just guys.
You know what I think makes us think he's older?
On defense.
The play that he made before the Super Bowl when he floated the idea of retirement.
Right, I think that made me think he was
Most
older.
of us tend to think that, oh, well, he's at the end of his career.
I know.
This guy could do this at that level. He's barely down in
He's
production.
32. He's 30. He's not that old.
No, he could do this for 2 or 3 more years.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
And
he's
to
still
both
great.
boys, both said he's playing with nobodies. I told y'all earlier in the week. Aaron Donald is the only player on the Browns defense who was a first or second round pick.
Rams defense.
Rams defense, sorry.
Yeah, you
the
did
only
tell
player on the Rams defense who was a first or second round
Which
pick.
is stunning.
I mean, that's it. He's playing with a bunch of no-names now, and he's still dominating. And there may be some decent players, but, nobody special.
That's going to be a fun matchup
Yeah.
to watch because the Browns are good in the middle of their line, and it's going to be fun to see who wins that matchup more often than not.
Great stats as always, Mike.
Somewhat off topic. You mentioned Haloti Nagata. How do you say
Nada.
it?
I think it was Nada, yeah.
The Browns were in position. Is this? I don't know if you guys, if this story is out there. They had the pick. They were on the clock to take him. It was between him and Cameron Wembley, and Baltimore was right below him. And I think it was Phil Savage called Baltimore and said, "We know you want him. Just give us something to move up." So they flip-flopped. So the Ravens got Haloti Nada, and the Browns took Cameron Wembley.
Do you understand how
That
good
hurts.
That about
hurts.
sums up that
I'm
history.
almost positive it was
Same.
Cameron
You
Wembley.
could write a book on draft tales from the crypt.
Oh.
A homeless guy told Jimmy to take Manziel, allegedly. Like, the draft day stories.
It's unbelievable.
Same
That's
team,
sickening.
Same team. Sackmaster Terrell Suggs, Haloti Nada, Ray
Yeah.
Lewis, and Ed Reed.
That's right.
Dead.
Go ahead, Mike.
We are going to pause our Browns talk and get back to it in the WKYC show, but we got to talk a little Cavs, and today's Cavs talk is brought to us by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Guys, it was an ugly Cavs loss last night. There's no way to sugarcoat it.
Ugliest of
They
the year?
got booed off the court. I would say it's the ugliest loss
I
of
thought
the
it
season.
was.
They were a
Portland
double-digit
stinks.
favorite. They lost outright, and they showed, frankly, no signs of life and/or fight in the second half. I was there, and it was pretty ugly in the fourth quarter.
How bad were the boos? Because every article I
They
read
were
this
enough.
morning
Yeah,
said that they were,
Yeah,
I
you
think,
could-
they were
Booed off the
loud,
floor.
but it didn't come across that way, really. I mean, you could hear them, but it didn't sound like it was.
It wasn't. First off, it was not a sold-out arena by any means. Like
Which
it was,
is
It was the
problematic,
Blazers,
but-
so
yeah, no, I know.
with all due respect to the Blazers, it wasn't.
They're due no
packed
respect,
crowd. You say?
Are they due any respect?
I mean, my friend's a coach there, so yeah, I'm gonna respect the Blazers. They just beat the Cavs, so the Cavs better respect them next time they play. But
I don't know that the Cavs would do respect either.
Right now, they're not.
that's fair. But it was definitely audible. You could hear the boos. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it was like a deafening level boo, but they got booed off the court. Like all those reports are 100%
Yeah.
accurate.
Their slogan, let them know. I think the fans let them know last night where they stand on this team, and they're underachieving.
And right now, I made it's not even a joke, but I said this morning, I'm not sure JBC can get any hotter. Like at this point, I'm not sure if he'll get fired, but his seat could not be any hotter than it is this morning.
I know, Jason, when teams make moves like this, there's always a strategy behind it. They're getting ready to play the Detroit Pistons, who I don't think won a single game in November.
They
Two
lost
wins.
15, 16 in a row.
They're
something like
2-17, I think, on
But
the year.
aren't they? Didn't they finish the month winless?
I didn't look
That
at
is correct, yes.
Is
Okay,
it?
so I know that teams look at schedules. They look at bye weeks in the NFL, give the coach 2 weeks to get his feet under him. I thought when the Cavs made that little push last night, they went on an 8-0 run to get it, I think, to within 4 because they were down 12 after being up 16. When it was clear they weren't going to sustain that and they were going to take the L, I immediately thought, Detroit's next. That's a team they should thump. And you like your new coach to get off on the right foot for momentum. I thought this was the last we've seen of JB. Am I?
No, I think it was a fair If it was going to happen, I think it would have happened already. It's noon.
You do?
It's noon now. If they were going to fire him off that loss, it probably would have happened this morning.
Tends to, yeah.
Yeah. So, but certainly, yeah. I mean, we've kind of hinted around the edges of it all year long. It's something we at the Athletic have been monitoring very closely since the summer. I mean, I've heard since the summer he was in trouble.
Yeah.
So,
well, really, going back to the playoff loss.
Jason, this to me is why the Cavs organization's a joke. Because to have, like, every game, is he going to get fired? Is he going to get fired? Like, what is the point?
Yeah,
Good organizations
when you
don't
know
do that.
You're going to do it, do it.
Just do it. What nonsense is this? Why did they even bring him back? If he's this close to being fired every game, why did they bring him back?
well, I think we got 10 minutes here.
Yeah, we're going to need more.
Yeah, I thought last year it was a personnel issue more than a coaching issue. I really did. He didn't have the horses. He didn't have any shooting. Like, how many times do we talk about, you got to have shooting, you got to have shooting, you got to have shooting.
He has it now.
They do have more shooting now, and I wrote a piece for The Athletic just a couple days ago. Their best lineup, if you want to look at the metrics and the data, their best lineup is Mobley at center with 4 shooters around him. It's not even Jared Allen on the floor. It's Niang, and it's not Darius on the floor either, by the way. It's Donovan, Niang, Strus, and Karis LeVert. Is data-driven, that's their best lineup so far. They've had a lot of problems. They've just been inconsistent. I mean, they whacked Denver at home. You know, you smash the defending champs at home. That's a pretty good win. They've had some good wins. Last night was a terrible loss. Sacramento on the road, I think Donovan had similar remarks after the Sacramento loss of how horrible it is and something's got to change. So this is twice now that he's come out with comments like that. And, when you say, do you have the clip, Mike, or the quote from
quote? Yeah, we do. You can take tag
of Donovan saying something's got to change. Well, it's pretty obvious what you're laying out there.
I mean, you really.
He had a 2-part quote real quick, just so we'll read it all. This is Donovan Mitchell. He said, "This was the worst loss of the season, so that's it. Let's go. It starts with me." And then he followed that up by saying, "We can either keep sitting here and having this conversation, or we can do something about it. I know we'll do something."
See, now you can read that two ways. He could be talking about the players. Because he is pointing the finger at himself.
And he's always been very good at that. It starts with me as the leader of the team. He's always been very good at that.
So I know it's easy to read that quote in a vacuum and think, oh, he's talking about firing the coach. But when you pair that with his other statement, the way I put them together is he's saying we can either, we can sit here and, do something about it or not. Also, I think it should be pointed out that JB spent like 2 or 3 minutes at the podium, was very brief.
Yeah.
And then went in the locker room and had a lengthy meeting with his team.
Well, I think that was first. The locker room was first, and then...
Oh, I thought he
team
did
meeting
podium
was first,
Yeah.
and then he went to media. Team meeting was first.
So he made the media wait for a while and then only gave him 2 minutes.
I had a problem last year, and I'm talking about when I had a problem. I had a problem with everybody in the organization. We had Campy on the show. They were very defensive about somebody calling out, why are you resting on 51 wins? You can't. This team is already a team that could be accused of being too nice. After you lose to the Knicks and you get beat up, they come on and Kobe says, "Oh well, 51 wins is a mark in this league." JB, we're a young guy with young nucleuses and all this other. Listen, man, that stuff was gone. When Donovan Mitchell got here, y'all didn't understand what type of time it was. And so now, Jason talks about it all the time. You got young guys that play hard every night defensively. What happens when those young guys wake up and they made all-star teams? Or they got max deals like Darius Garland.
They get their money.
They got the bag. Now they're like, man, I'm about to be playing hard every single. We're going to coast like the other teams and turn it on in the playoffs. But what they don't realize, they're not good enough to do that. So when you massage their shoulders and make them feel like everything is okay, coupled with the fact that JB don't have no offense to speak of, we talked about Stefanski. We should be on JB more than Stefanski.
It's a fair point because I was actually in Fort Wayne, Indiana last night at a comedy show with my wife. So
That's a long way to go for a comedy show. I hope it was good.
When I'm driving, it's 2.5 hours away. So
to see who?
This guy Pete Lee, my wife loves him. He's hysterical, and it was a birthday
Doesn't
present
come to
for her.
Cleveland?
He's not on. Cleveland's not on the rotation.
Shout out to your date night.
We were
man.
talking to him about that after the show. Why he's not? He's
That's a
coming.
commitment.
But so anyway, so I didn't see the game, and then I was starting to get messages. I'm like, what's going on? And then I talked to Mike on the drive home, So I watched the second half of the game this morning, and there's just their offense too much. It's too pick and roll heavy to start with, and there's too many times where it's just one guy trying to make a play going on. Like, there are things you can do, and Mike knows this. There are things you can do when things are breaking down, when stuff's not going your way. Just run basic NBA elementary
get points,
horns high plays, and get guys moving. There are things to do.
We don't see that,
and
though.
Too often, Darius is really struggling this year with turnovers. Like,
did he have 9 last night?
9 last night, and he said after the game that Portland's a long defensive team and they were taking away angles. Portland they just switched every pick and roll, and he ended up with a 6'7" long wing on him, and he struggled all night long against defenders that, frankly, if you're looking at the caliber of Darius Garland versus the guy who was trying to defend him,
Yeah, Garland should win those matchups.
should not be an issue.
That sounds like
You're
a
right.
ridiculous excuse. Have you soured on Garland at all?
There's I haven't soured on Darius. The concern with Darius is, number one, he's got the biggest contract in franchise history, and because of his size,
Think about that.
There's always an injury concern with him. There's always something. It's a neck, it's a knee, it's hamstring, whatever. There's always something because of just his frame. So keeping him healthy and keeping him on the floor is a little bit of a concern, because look at his games played history throughout his career. Rarely is he in the 70s. He's missing a lot of games every year.
Can you call up the graphic again with the compilation stats for JB? I think so. What we're all talking about is Bull is your point exactly, and I said this going into the Knicks series last year and then coming out of it. That was his moment. What are you going to do with a 51-win team and a home court advantage for a playoff series against a team you should beat? And you could look at all the metrics. He's got a losing record with the Cavs. He's got a losing record in his career. He's got a terrible playoff record. If we all were honest with ourselves, and I like JB, and I wish him well, but we've got a team that can do playoff damage. If you look at the roster, I'm not saying that it's a championship caliber team. This should never be a one-and-done team. We are wasting what might be a white-hot opportunity with the guy who I think we all know is not the right guy. Make the change if you're going to do it.
Think about some of the coaches they've hired outside of Ty Lue in recent years. David Blatt, what's his name? Who's the guy?
John Beilein.
John Beilein. Somebody's hiring.
That was Dan back in the day doing Dan things.
Isn't Dan back in the mix now?
Dan, I wrote that. Dan's back in the power seat. He's at all the games. He's back in control. I don't know that necessarily it's. I don't know. I don't know that's as bad as it was previously before his health things, because Dan, the one thing that Dan provides the organization is there's a target, and that's where we're going. And in the past, it wasn't always necessarily the right target, but you knew where you were going. There was direction, there was leadership. That's where we're going.
Right.
And at times, I've heard from people in the organization, at times that wasn't always there these last couple of years. So I think it could be a good thing in some ways that he's back.
Well, to have accountability. Am I overly aggressive with my statement on JB?
Here's the thing.
I just, when I look at his metrics and I look at the roster he has, don't waste this opportunity. They don't come around often.
Yeah, it's a tough conversation because he didn't have enough shooting last year. You can't win in the NBA without shooting in the playoffs. I don't care about the regular season. I don't care. Regular season doesn't matter. I don't care about their 51 wins. It doesn't matter.
I don't either.
To win in the postseason, you have to have shooting. You got to be able to guard all 5 guys on the floor, and that was not happening last year. So I don't put the Knicks loss on JB because he did not have the horses to get that done. I was calling for Danny Green, like broken down, decrepit Danny Green to play because at least he could shoot.
We're at the quarter pole of this
and
season.
Now this year is different.
The
he has the shooting this year,
and they're winning
different.
at a far less clip this year than last.
And that's the disappointing thing is it's just too inconsistent to this point, and so that's the frustrating part. And the regular season doesn't matter, but it's hard to believe that this team that's young, that's never. I mean, the LeBron years, they could screw around and go get drunk for 3 days in Napa because you knew they were going to flip it under when the playoffs began. Right. You don't have that assurance with this young team that's never really accomplished anything to be able to do that.
So if he does get fired really quickly because we got to go Who's the guy? Is it an interim guy? Or do they go outside and
Luke?
get somebody?
Isn't it what's his name?
What
The
is it
former
look like?
Vancouver coach.
So there's two guys on the bench, Luke Walton and Greg Buckner, are the guys that you would look at that would be the logical candidates. Dave Yeager is the guy that I have circled who's looming in the background, who they brought in sort of very quietly, slid him into the organization. I truly don't know if Dave's health will allow him to do it. He's had a lot of health issues in the past. That's why he stepped down. He was an excellent head coach in the league, had success in Sacramento, well, by Sacramento standards, and Memphis. Very well respected head coach. He was in Philly last year and his assistant, and that's the guy that I would just sort of keep an eye on if
Very
this
good.
goes
Doesn't
sideways.
it
We gotta
feel
do
like
super chats. We're
5
running out of
seconds,
time.
Mike? Doesn't it feel like the Cavs are in this middle of the league spot you never want to be in?
Yes.
They have the fourth
Yeah.
best odds to win the East, but they're far away from the top three.
Yeah.
There's the top three: Philly, Boston, Milwaukee, and then the
You don't want
Cavs
to
are
be in
fourth.
that middle area.
All right, got to fly through some super chats before we head over to WKYC. James Cosby says, how does Schwartz defense do versus the Rams? It'll be interesting to see how the defense responds after a loss against Stafford. We talked a lot about that on Wednesday with Tyvis. Matt Mariani says, it's brought up a lot. Only one bad season JOK had was 2022 when his brother died. Would probably affect all of our performances at work, plus Jim Schwartz. Akimbo RPG says, if Kareem Hunt is a big wheel, Joe Flacco is a unicycle. Damian Frederick said, Miles pre-rec last season, 3 sacks in 3 games. Miles post-rec, 13 sacks in 13 games. He's not human. Skilly says, I'm able to watch a live show so that I could shout out my 12 months as a member. Also, Adam the Bulge, I died. Shout out Skilly. Simple says, Flacco is 2-0 against the Rams with an 87.6 passer rating and averages 344 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an
Meaningless
interception. Let's hope we get those averages on Sunday. And Daryl says, the best sports show in Cleveland is UCSS, hands down. We trust in
That's
Flacco
true.
and Schwartz, but JB got to go.
Where else can you talk about strippers, Adam the Bulge,
yeah.
OnlyFans,
Yeah,
Joe
you're only getting that
Flacco,
here.
Tracy Bickerstaff?
Oh,
We cover it all.
The other shows are generic compared to that.
Hard balls.
All right.
I will see you on WKYC.
Yeah, go check us out on Channel 3 if you're not in the Cleveland area, WKYC Plus or WKYC.com. Click the Watch Live Now button.
Peace.